Welcome back everyone. Today's tutorial will be about NextJS. And if you worked with Node before, you might have heard about NextJS. It's a really good framework to work with. And right here I have an example of a store that I built using NextJS. And this is just a simple little merchant website where it has some links up here, store. As you click on the product, it shows you details about it. And really this uses a API that I found online right here called Fake Store API. And I pull the JSON data that it provides. So it gives me these API calls right here. It gives me JSON data and I pull it and I can display it onto my website to just an example merchant site so that I don't have to recreate everything, store all the data in a database. But in this tutorial here, what I'll do is I'll break this up into 2 separate parts or maybe 3 separate parts, depending how long it gets. In this first tutorial here, I will step through NextJS, how it works, the basic layouts on it, how everything looks like when you set it up, how to install it. There's many aspects to this, so I want to really go into detail on how it works because it really covers a lot about SEO, how you set up the layout, how to make it search engine friendly. I think that's the main thing about NextJS here is that when you build it and make it live is that it generates all of these HTML pages. And so it makes this website very SEO friendly and it loads very fast. So I really love NextJS. I'll show you how to set up routing, API calls, some of the methods that it has built in, like get static props, get static paths, get server-side props, how to generate dynamic pages. And then I'll generate a simple form to show you how to submit some forms, and then we'll do routing. And with this is very powerful. You can set up like a merchant site just like this. This is an example little merchant website that I set up. I don't have this add to cart working, but I just want to show you the layout on how it works. We'll do routing on it, and then when you click on an item, it will show you data on that item. And like I said, I'm pulling everything from an API call. But near the end, I'll put all this data into a cloud database and I'll pull it from that so you can see how it looks like. And so yeah, stick around and you will learn how to program in Next.js. Alright, so right here I have my sandbox folder, and like every project I create a new folder right here called Next.js tutorial 1. And so what I do is I click on this folder and I drag it into my Visual Studio Code, and it'll just open up that folder as a project for me. So I use Homebrew to install all of my packages, and I use Homebrew to install Node. And what I like to do is before I start, I always do brew update, and then I do brew upgrade. So I really suggest doing that so that I can update all of your packages, all your programming, languages that you have. And then the first thing we have to do is we have to type up npx create next app. And then since I'm inside of my folder here that I dropped in, all I have to do is put a period right here and it will install Next.js into my current folder. Now if you want it into a different folder, you just type up your project name right here as the folder and it'll install into there. So I've already installed it right here. This is the basic layout. I haven't touched it, done anything yet. Here's the package.json right here. And I want you to pay attention to this right here because as we run this project, it gives us a little dev right here. And this is the build. If you want to check it out, you can just type npm run dev and it'll run Next.js in a local server. So let's do that real quick so I can just show you the basic layout. So this was my previous project, right? And here, as you set up for the first time, it's going to look like this. It's going to say welcome to Next.js. And it gives you documentation and all these examples, and then even how to deploy it using their Vercel website and server over here. So I'll be doing that near the end where I deploy it on Vercel. So let's go back here. I'll stop the server with Control-C. And what I want to do is to step through the layout so you can understand this. They give you a folder called pages. There's a public. There's a styles folder. What I want to do is to go through public right now. Public is very simple. This is where the HTML stuff is. And so if I put an images folder in here, we can call it directly in our server right here. If I just go images like that, we create a folder, right? So that is the public folder. Anything you put in there, people can view it and go to that URL. Next thing is to go through pages here, and pages will be linked up with styles over here. And so let me briefly go over this. It gives you this underscore app.js, and ignore that for now because this deals with the layout. And I'll do layouts in the next tutorial, but right now you want to focus on index.js because this is what runs it. This is the home page right here. Next.js comes with its own libraries right here, head, image, and so we're going to be using that as we program out. See, if you import its head right here, then we can use the head. And this is very useful for SEO. We can change the title of each page. We can change the meta tags. But right now, every page you can have its own tags by doing this. This is the main right here that it sets up. And notice how it calls its classes right here for styles. You can also do class like this, where you call class equals, class name, like that. You can also do that, but Next.js has this built-in class name right here. And then it imports the style from here. You see, it imports the home module style that's inside of styles over here. Imports that in, and then you have to call it like this. You have to say class name equals, and then you do this bracket, and then you call the style. And let me step through it further right here. Let me remove this again so you don't get confused. As you create pages, this is the home page here. As you create other custom pages, it will allow you to have its own style. That's why home here, index, has its own, called home.module.css, and it has to be named in this method right here. So for example, if I create a new file right here and I call it products.js like that, this will now be a new page. I can also create a style right here with a new file called products.module.css. And then I import that project into my projects.js folder right here using the same thing right here. I can just import it like that, and then I call products like that, and it'll import this right here, and then we can use the styles from that. So that is a unique thing that Next.js does here, where it can have its own CSS, but there is also a global CSS right here. So we look at the globals. This thing will cover every page that you create. Oh, and by the way, let me kind of make this a little bit more clear. As you're creating a page right here, this is the home page, and if I create a products right here, we go to the routing, this will now be a page, products. So that's how Next.js works. As you're creating a page, it will be its own URL redirection right here to its own page, products. So you can create multiple. This is just the default index where it's the home page. So that's home. Going back to this, let's say if I have this products and I can import products module CSS, right? This global is also available to this products page and the index page and every other page that I create. And how I call it is that you would do, like I said over here, you can just call it by class equals and give it, the products class, whatever it's called. Class. And so you can call class names like that. And so it's only if you import it like this with the styles to reference the CSS inside this right here, you have to call it this way by doing the bracket styles dot and then call the classes in there. So we look at home here, you see it has container, and that's how it's calling it. It has all of these CSSs right here. So that's how it works. Let's go back here. I want to close these up. And so let's remove this. And so you see how CSS is linked into every page. You don't necessarily have to create one for these, as you're creating a new page. If I have this products one here, I don't have to create a CSS for it. I can just use the global if I want. It just gives you that opportunity to create its own CSS so that, you can have every page have its own CSS. So let's close that up. And I don't want this anymore. Let's delete this. And I just want to be more clear on this, on how the pages work. You create everything inside here. So if I create an about us page, right? Or if I create a contact us page, you can now route it to about. You can just call it like that and it'll just go to the page, as long as you go to that URL. Contact, that's how it works. So you can create pages like that. Now with this API here, this API allows us to do a little bit more. API routing right here. It has a whole documentation, and it gives us this little hello world thing. So to call this, since there is a folder here called API, and then we have this hello.js in here, we can now call it like this, API/hello. So let me run that right here, npm run dev. See, and it output that right there, name John Doe, because that's what it's doing right here, response.status. So it's allowing us to create these separate API calls in its own folder. So if we create a folder, it uses that as the routing. See API here, and then you go to the JS file that we call it. Now this is separate. As I create inside the root of pages here, about and contact us, you see how I can just go directly to about and contact also as a route. So about like that. So here, let me just program out a simple about page right here. I'm going to say export default function about. Okay, very simple. And then inside of here, we have to return HTML for it. So that's how we call it. And then as you know, you got to put everything inside of its own block. Inside of this about page, give it an H1, and I'll just say, you know, about us. Give it a title. This is the about us page, and I'm going to show you right here how I can manipulate the SEO meta tags by putting in here the head. So let me link up the head section right here, and we're going to say import head from next/head. See that? And now we can use the head tag. I'm going to call head. And what's inside the head, right? We have the title, and we're going to call this about us. Meta name, description, content equals yada yada yada. And the thing with SEO today is that a lot of this isn't really important anymore. You can have the description, the keywords, but search engines really don't care for keywords that much anymore. You can do the robots too right here, where you say index follow, and you can give a description. This is the about us page for coder tutorials or something like that. And you know, keywords in here, NextJS, coding, programming, so stuff like that. But like I said, search engines don't really put too great of a value on these anymore. You can do the descriptions and the robots. Oh, I spelled this wrong. You can do these if you want, and it's fine, but I don't think keywords weigh as heavy anymore as they did before. But this is how you can manipulate the header for each page. So I'm going to save this, and you'll notice right here, Next.js, I still have the dev server running, and as I save it, it's going to automatically save it and refresh the server for me. So over here, this is the home page, and we have, oh yes, all right, see, we have this header, right? Create next app. So now the home page should have this for the title, and then we also have now this about us page with this title and description. So let me go here and see, it just refreshed for me about us. I go to view source over here. So you see right here, it has the head. It will show me the header right here. See, you'll see right here, it populated the title, about us, the description, the keywords, all the stuff that I put inside the header. And if I go back home and I do the same view source, it will have its own header right here. See, here's the new title for the home page and description and stuff. So that's how you can manipulate it by using the header library in here. And I'll be stepping through all of those different tags. You know, there's images, there's scripts, there's all these different ones that Next add in for you. So what I want to do here is, let's say if I create a folder right here, because you notice if you create a folder named API, it will also route it to there, right? So let's say if I create a folder in here called contact, and then let's say I have this contact inside there, and I want this to be called index actually. So this is going to be index.js. So now if I route it to contact, it will run this index.js, right? So let's do this. I'm going to create export default function contact, right? Return our HTML for us. I always like to create the skeleton before I code. It just so that I don't forget to close things up. And let's just say contact us page. This is the contact page. All right. So now with this contact here, you see how I have a folder and then index, and then it's going to use this index as the primary page for this. So let's go back here and see how it works. I just have to call it index. I can't call it contact us or something like that. If I call it contact, then or like contact in there again, then I have to call it contact again or contact us or whatever it's called, right? But if I call the page index, it's going to just use it as the primary page for contact. And so you see there's multiple ways of doing it. You can create just the about us.js, or you can create a folder and then index, or you can create this folder and have different JS files in there. So the routing on this is very powerful, very easy. You just create the pages and it's routed. What I like to do right now is to kind of go over styles a little bit more just so that you understand it. And what I did was I have the globals.css open right here, right? And I created a class right here called red, and I gave it a color red. Very simple. So this is inside globals. And then I also created a about.module.css. I gave it a simple class of red again, but I made the color blue just so that I can just give you an example. And now the about page right here, about.js. I'm going to show you how to do two different styles here. I imported the styles from the about module here, down here. And now down here on the h1 tag, I'm going to call class equals red. Now this should reference the global style right here. And it's not going to use the style inside about, because the style in here is going to make it blue if I call red. So I'm referencing the global by saying class equals red. So here we go, and I'm save that. And right here, see about, it's red. It's using the global class. Now if I want to use my local class, I say class name equals bracket styles, and it's calling this right here styles dot red. And that should now reference inside the about CSS right here, red, which is going to make it blue. So let me save that. And if we go back here, and there you go, it's now blue. So that's how you can use different classes. I'm back inside of my home page here, index.js. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to retrieve some HTTPS data from our store over here. If you remember this fake store API, I'm going to use their API, retrieve it by doing a get on these. And I'm going to return it back into our project here using get static props, and I will return the data into our home right here so we can use it. The basics that you should know about this is that, so I'm going to use this right here because as I build my project and make it live, if I use this, it's going to export everything as HTML pages. That's what I really want to do in the end, to have static HTML pages as the website is live. If I use this right here, get server-side props, the pages will render on every call, and I don't want that. It's going to hit the server every time. So if I'm creating all of these, hundreds of different pages or dynamic type pages, every request that a user makes is going to hit the server and refresh the data onto the page. So that slows things down on the server side. And so I'm not going to use this, but it is available. I'm mainly going to be using get static props and also the const get static paths. I'm doing an arrow function on this thing. So the other thing about this is that I can only use this get static paths with get static props. If I'm using get server side props, this function where it refreshes the server on every call, I cannot use this right here along with it. I have to comment that out. So just always remember that this is to be used by itself, but if we're doing static pages, I can use both of these. So you will get an error if you're doing get server side props and then you leave this function somewhere on the page if you make it available. So just watch out for that. Don't do that. Since this is only the home page, it's one page, I'm only using this to retrieve data. Now I'm going to return it to my home page. And then later on, I'll use this when I have more dynamic pages that as I'm generating them, and then I have to use this part of it. So let's get into this. Right here, I'll delete this so that it's not confusing. And I'm using get static props. What I want to do is do a const response equals await fetch. I'm gonna fetch from our URL right here. I copied this from the fake store. I'm gonna wrap this around a string, and so we're going to fetch this URL that's gonna return jewelry for us. And I'm doing an await on this because I wanted to finish fetching before we move on. So to do an await on this, I have to make this into an async. And then const data, I'm going to wait on this and do response.json right there. If data, then I'm going to return right here. And this is how you return to use into our main function here. You have to return it as a prop, and it's called props and data. That's how you call it. So we're going to return that, and to use that data now, I can go here and put inside brackets, and I'm calling that data now to be used in our function. So guess what? In here, I'm going to remove all of this right here. Let's delete that stuff to make it simple. We're inside of the main class here. And now, so now I can call that data, say data.map, and we're going to map the item index and return that. And then let's return it. And I'll make it very simple right here. Let's return this like this. I'll just have p tags in here. And then the item.title. There's also an item.price. So I'll just return those two for now, so we can just see the name of it and the price. And yeah, that's how you grab data. I think I'll just remove this footer too. We're not going to use it. Very simple, so I can just see how it looks like. So yeah, there we go. I grabbed data from an external website using its API, and I'm telling it if there is data, then return it. Return the props here. Let's do npm run dev. Hopefully I have no errors on this. Let's see here. Let's go to the home page where it's at. Oh, there we go. I retrieved the data, the title, the price, title, price. See how it mapped through each item that I retrieved? Because I'm really just retrieving some simple jewelry from its API right here, and it just only has a few. Here, I'll put a price tag on this so you can see. So it looks like that. See that? So yeah, very simple stuff on how you retrieve HTTPS data here by fetching it and by returning it as a prop. If I don't do this, then I can't use that data. I have to return it as this to be able to use it in here. Now we can take this a step further, and I'm going to do this right here. I want to create a folder inside of the root right here. I'm going to call it components. All right, I have it inside the wrong spot. I'm going to drag this out into the root. There we go, components. I don't want it inside of pages right here. I want components right here. Now I'm going to create a file called products.js with the uppercase P, by the way. So there's the product. Now back inside of index here, I want to reference that file, import products from /components/products. There we go. I'm going to go back down here, and you see where I'm outputting the data. I'm going to take that, cut it out. I want to put it inside here. Export default function products. And then return. I'll paste in that data right there. So now it's going to return it in here. I'll save that. Go back to index. And now I can reference this product here. Just like that. But what I want to do is I want to pass the data to that products page. So how do I pass it? Well, I give it a name like products data equals, then I call it data. See, now I'm taking this data, I'm passing it through, and now I can use this name inside of this products right here. So I'm gonna go here, I have to put brackets, products data, and now I can call this products data. I have a problem here, expected. Okay, I forgot this. I have to close this up just like that. Save that. Everything has to be encapsulated into one block. So you see how I can pass data through. See, inside main, I fetch the data, I returned it as a prop, and then down here I return it into our home function data. And now I can take that same data, pass it through products here. Like I can actually just call this data if I want. I just decide to call it products data, just so that it won't be confusing. And then I can pass that data through. And now that data will be used inside of this page. And then I can do the same thing. I can just code more in here, make it clean. And so you see how I can pass things through. So I will run this again, npm run dev. And let's see if it outputs the same thing. Home page. And there we go. It just does the same thing. You just don't notice it, but it is pulling data from here. It's displaying it now from this page. And we've cleaned it up a bit by importing that and passing data through. So that's how you can pass data to different pages. You might get some warnings like this where it says each child in a list should have a unique key. And how you get around that is that I'm back inside the products page right here. It's telling me that I just have to have some unique keys in here. So I can just do a div and do a key equals. And this is where I give the index like that. And then I just wrap this around. That's div. And let's see if it removes it for us. So yeah, you have to do this if you're calling the map function. Always bring in the item, the index, and then just give it a key for its child here. And so let's go to the page. We'll reload it. And then down here you see there's no more of those errors. And so yeah, this wraps up this first tutorial. I wanted to show you the really basic layout, the importance of it, how to do routing. The very important part about this tutorial should be this right here, get static props. And then I'll also show you how the get server side props work, but it's basically the same thing. If I set this to get server side props, server side like that, it's really going to refresh the page every time I load it. But that's only during the build, because right now it's in the development mode and it will just run the same way. But like I said, get server side props is going to refresh the server on every request. So that's why I use the other get static. And to do that, I can also use get static paths. And I'll show you how to do that on the next one as I generate more dynamic pages out of it. This first tutorial, this should be the most important part out of it, because this is how you pass data through. This is how you retrieve data. If you are retrieving through API and have to pass it, there will be a lot of, I think every project that you work on, you will be passing some kind of data to other pages. Yeah, this is the important part of it. Later on, when I connect my MongoDB cloud database to it, I'll be fetching from the database and doing things to it, and I'm still going to use get static props as it retrieves from the database and it outputs here. Even though I'm not fetching through a HTTPS call here, it will still fetch through a database and passing the data, because I have to get that database data and I still have to pass it as a props right here, and then I can use that data on different pages. So yeah, the takeaway from this tutorial is that I'll step through these other ones later on. It has a lot of these built-in libraries here, image, there's scripts. I'll show you how I use this right here, the _app. We can manipulate the layouts on all of the pages here. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this very first tutorial. I really do want to see what people think of NextJS programming. I want to see the responses on this to see if a lot of people are interested in NextJS, and I will move further along with it if I do see a lot of interest in it. But I think this is a very good framework to work with. So this is just going to be the first tutorial. Please give it a thumbs up if you do enjoy these type of tutorials. I'll include this coding on my GitHub if you want to go check it out, github/Kodakai. And I will see you in the next one. Kodakai out.